The Last Alaskans is an American reality television series which follows the lives of several families in the rugged and cold conditions of the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge of northeastern Alaska. The show premiered in 2015, originally airing on Animal Planet, but due to its unbelievable popularity, The Last Alaskans moved to Discovery Channel at the beginning of the second season. Since then, the show has enjoyed 4 more successful seasons, entertaining audiences with the intriguing daily activities of the last people to inhabit the wildlands of the nature refuge. The families who feature on The Last Alaskans survive by trapping, hunting, foraging, and farming, and live isolated lives without the luxurious comforts of modern technology. Unlike certain other Alaskans who claim to live away from society, the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge is truly remote, as the only way to reach it is by air travel. Do you want to win one of these items on your screen? If so, make sure to watch the whole video, leave a like and comment a hidden message. And with that being said, let's get ready to watch the video. While many reality shows often manipulate or creatively adapt reality to suit its audience, The Last Alaskans proves that the contrary can attract as big a following, and that real-life situations possess enough intrigue to provide adequate entertainment for many. Since the show is a very open and honest production, it has few secrets to uncover. However, all the trivia and interesting fun facts surrounding the show will entertain loyal fans and newfound enthusiasts alike. Life in Alaska is quite different, and the trivia derived from its local geology alone would entertain inquisitive minds. Some of the drama and sorrows that unfolds in front of the cameras tend to be interesting, and the potential future the families of The Last Alaskans face might interest fans. The history of the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge, as old as it is, also possesses plenty of intrigue for those who might be interested in learning more about these hardy people. Consisting of fascinating people set in one of the world's most captivating places, The Last Alaskans is a winning recipe that does not need any additional tweaking, manipulation, or creative detailing to achieve success. But how did it start? The idea behind Half Yard's production series began with a fascination about the life of Hamo Korth, an outdoorsman of some fame who is regularly featured in The Last Alaskans. Korth, his wife Edna, and the remaining members of his family have spent the greater parts of their lives living in the wild territories of the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge, striving towards a self-reliant existence. Korth rose to prominent fame when his life became the subject of James Campbell's book, The Final Frontiersman, back in 2004. Prior to this, Korth also appeared in the 1992 PBS documentary Braving Alaska, and since the publication of James's book, Korth has also featured in the 2009 documentary film Surviving Alone in Alaska. Interest in Hamo's lifestyle choices grew and eventually shaped the inception of The Last Alaskans. Thus, the biggest concern for the producers was to convince Hamo to sign on for the project. His acceptance also made it easier to convince other families. The Last Alaskans provides an average audience of over 1.5 million viewers with an entertaining escape from their mundane lives, but the show's production very nearly didn't make the cut. Just thinking about life with the series' excitement and authentic adventure might be a dreary thought for all of the die-hard fans The Last Alaskans has acquired over the years. Yet, the show's core concept, which won the hearts of their loyal followers, became the biggest problem the producers couldn't overlook. In modern reality television production, a common belief suggests that most efficient means by which to attract viewers is to provide creative reality. That is, the more drama they can produce, the more the audience will remain intrigued and the larger the audience will become. When filming started, however, the creators were surprised to find that excitement popped up everywhere. However, the freedom of filming a project of this nature caused a second problem that became a bothersome difficulty for the production crew. Allowing their cameras to film well beyond the traditional time creates hours of footage that require long and industrious editing to produce the episodes that viewers enjoy watching. All the additional effort nearly convinced the producers to give up, but conversely, this technique of filming made it easier to capture unexpected drama on film. Despite the difficulties and concerns that plagued the production, Half Yard Productions received the green light to create The Last Alaskans. But this meant that all the crew members involved had to make some serious sacrifices. Due to the isolated location of the wildlife refuge, filming was especially difficult, not to mention expensive. Everything from the crew members to their equipment required airlifting, which meant no reservations for sentimental comforts were available. Even worse, the crew involved with the actual creation needed to adapt quickly to their new setting, braving the harsh cold where they lived without access to any modern amenities and utilities. While the family who survived in the refuge live in cabins, license restrictions prevented them from sharing it with the filming crew, and as a result, the production team camped out in the wilderness. Only during some kind of an emergency could the conditions of their licenses be waived, but during all the time spent filming, the crew had to brave the elements. Luckily for them, though, the production of the show had a big enough budget to provide the crew with professional outfitters to construct their campsite. Still, the crew certainly had a taste of adventure that captivated the fans. An iconic feature of The Last Alaskans is the beautiful scenery of the local landscapes and the amazing footage of it that the camera crew captures. While the show may not have won prestigious awards for cinematography that another reality series, Deadliest Catch, has, it nonetheless provides the audience with captivating scenes worthy of many trophies. If you have wondered how the crew captures local scenery and how they achieve the amazing angles of some scenes, then wonder no more, for the answer is rather simple. The cinematic magic behind a great deal of the show's footage comes from using drones, but the motivation behind their choice is more complicated than one would think. Keep in mind that the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge is a protected natural reservation and home to several ecosystems. As such, the reservation applies strict rules to curb the impact of human influence to preserve the fragile ecosystems. The use of drones allowed the film crew to minimize any irreversible damage heavy equipment could inflict, and so adhere to the rules implemented by the Wildlife Refuge's administration. It also helped the crew by not attracting unwanted attention from any of the refuge's wildlife, which includes polar and grizzly bears. During the first 2 seasons of The Last Alaskans, a prominent feature of the show was following the activities of the Lewis family. However, without any word from the channel or the production company, the Lewis family disappeared, never returning in the show's later seasons. The Lewis family, consisting of Dad Ray, Mom Cindy, and their 3 daughters Molly, Emma, and Sarah, became an instant hit with fans. When they left the show, dumbstruck fans wondered what happened to them, and without any public notice, could only speculate about their disappearance and reason for them abandoning the series. Speculators considered that some kind of dispute might have motivated their departure, but it seems not. Throughout the first 2 seasons, Ray provided viewers with insight into his passion for houseboats. Many of the scenes filmed for The Last Alaskans that featured Ray and his family took place on their houseboat. As the family began spending more time on the water, it became difficult to keep true to the show's original concept. After all, the show's focus is life within the confines of the refuge. Thus, the pursuits of the Lewis family are what drove them to depart from the show. On the 22nd of July 2017, The Last Alaskans experienced the loss of beloved cast member Bob Harte. Bob was one of the oldest veterans to live in the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge, having spent more than 40 years of his life living freely in the untamed lands. When the show aired in 2015, Bob became an instant fan favorite. Harte's memory lives on with all his fans, and of course his family, which consists of his widow Nancy, his daughter Talisha, and sons Traver and Stephen, as well as his grandchild Carmela. According to his wife, Bob was a man who lived through several near-death experiences, which earned him the reputation of possessing 9 lives. Among the many misfortunes Bob experienced, he survived airplane accidents as well as a motorcycle collision. While many things could not kill Bob, it was unfortunate that he would lose the struggle against recurring cancer. In 2016, Harte temporarily departed from the show after being diagnosed with cancer, accepting treatment in Anchorage, Alaska. Bob later returned to the show, believing he had won the battle against this insidious disease. But before the release of the 4th season, Bob's cancer returned. The 4th season of The Last Alaskans paid tribute to Bob's life and documented his struggle until the sad end. The Arctic National Wildlife Refuge, which is home to everyone who appears in The Last Alaskans and is the main focus of the entire show, is the largest in the U.S., closely competing in size with the Yukon Delta Refuge, also in Alaska. The conservation became part of the country's national refuge system in 1960 and received protection from a system originally implemented by the 26th President of the United States, Theodore Roosevelt, which he established in 1903. In 1930, a young forester, Bob Marshall, and his family enjoyed an adventurous vacation in the then unknown wilderness, now recognized as the Arctic Refuge, and upon his return, began a personal mission to argue for the preservation of such areas. In his arguments, Marshall stated that the preservation of wildernesses would not only provide people with beautiful escapes, but also an exciting adventure. Little did he know that 85 years later, the same place would entertain people and provide them with excitement and adventure in the comfort of their own home. However, it would take Bob 30 years and the help of researchers and conservationists to declare the northeastern parts of Alaska as a wildlife refuge. Despite Bob Marshall and everyone else involved in efforts to conserve the Arctic Refuge, it may soon become a vain effort so quickly disregarded, and this might even mean that the families and people featured on The Last Alaskans are the last to live there. On the 17th of August 2020, U.S. Interior Secretary David Bernhardt announced that the government would soon begin drilling in the Arctic Refuge for both natural gases and oil. Such activities became a political dispute as far back as 1977. However, none of the presidents before were successful, but it seems Donald Trump found a way to convince Congress to disregard the Protection Act. The ecosystems of the Arctic Refuge's local habitats are incredibly fragile, and on top of that, global climate change is causing radical changes in the environment. Industrial progression might only hold a negative impact, and while this may be good for the American economy, the Arctic Refuge could become a wasteland. Ultimately, the people living in the refuge may be the last to survive the wildlands, and the footage captured on The Last Alaskans could be the last we see of the beautiful Arctic landscape. Here, follow a bit of fun did you know facts about Alaska that you might find entertaining and interesting. Since the extreme north is home to Alaska, it is often called the top of the world, and as such, lunar and solar activity is quite different. Alaska is one of the few places on Earth where towns experience polar nights, which occur during winter and happen because the sun never rises above the horizon. Some places, such as the town of Barrow, can experience up to 67 polar nights a year, which, as one could consider, can cause excessive psychological effects. Depression and suicide occur more frequently in residents of these parts, especially during polar night periods. Likewise, in summer, the sun hardly ever sets. With so much sunlight available, of course, Alaska would hold the record for growing the world's biggest vegetables. In 2012, an Alaska farmer grew a 138-pound, or 63-kilogram, cabbage, which won him the Guinness World Record. Alaska is also home to one of the last flag stop trains, which, instead of making specific stops, can be hailed by passengers as if it was a cab in New York. Due to the general remoteness of all the local towns, the railroad services have never adopted modern conventions.
I think it's Thanksgiving.
I don't know. I think...
Whatever. Merry Christmas! Ho, ho, ho.
Thank you for spending some time with us. Make sure to like and subscribe so you never miss another video. We also handpick these videos, which we recommend you watch next. You can talk to us on all social medias or ask a question in the comments below. Thank you for being with us, and we'll see you back tomorrow.